Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. It's great to have you with us on this beautiful day in America. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us. Well, the second biggest witch hunt in American history, in my opinion, falling, of course, second to the Mueller witch hunt probe, which was the Russia collusion hoax. Of course, we know a bunch of nonsense. Second, of course, is Jack Smith, Junkyard Jackal special counsel Jack Smith's $50+ million spending spree in his effort to persecute President Trump and anyone surrounded by President Trump. Well, new documents released by Senator Chuck Grassley show that Jack Smith was allegedly tracking the private communications and phone calls for nearly a dozen senators as part of his January 6th insurrection investigation. That's right, folks. The cell phones of 9 GOP senators, Mike Kelly, Lindsey Graham, Bill Hagerty, Josh Hawley, Dan Sullivan, Tommy Tuberville, Cynthia Lummis, Ron Johnson, and Marsha Blackburn's communications were all being tracked by Jack Smith. But the question I ask is, Jack Smith wasn't around in January of 2021. So when was he tracking their cell phones and why? This was part of a January 6th probe. So if they were to be tracked or surveilled upon, you would have done it on January 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, up to like the 21st or whatever, when President Trump left office. Now, the document states the names of these lawmakers and the FBI agents on Smith's team conducted preliminary toll analysis on the toll records associated with the lawmakers. An official said that the records were collected in 2023 by Jack Smith and his team after subpoenaing these major telephone companies. So January 6th happens in 2021. Jack Smith comes in November of 2022 and starts surveilling the phones in 2023. The timeline just doesn't make sense. What did they think they were getting in 2023? January 6th at that point had now been 2 years in the past, but now you're surveilling their phones 2 years later? It doesn't make much sense to me. And I think Jack Smith, who's one of the folks, by the way, who didn't get one of the Biden pardons, probably because he did a terrible job and was unable to convict President Trump on anything because it was a stupid case and a nonsensical case in the first place. But he wasn't one of these folks who got the pardon. Paul Sperry of Real Clear Investigations says that this was a move that would have to have been signed off by Chris Wray. So I think it's time Chris Wray, another fella who seemingly didn't get a pardon, be brought in before Congress to answer some questions, to find out just about what he knew. We already know he lied about how many people were at the Capitol on behalf of the FBI on January 6th. I think the original number he gave was like 20-something. We now know it was nearly 300 paid agitators, in my opinion. So I want to know what Jack Smith knew and why he was surveilling innocent U.S. senators. Never alleged of any crime, never convicted of any crime, yet their phones are being surveilled. If I'm one of those senators, I'm having a very tough time grappling with what exactly is going on and what exactly is going to be done. Kash Patel says he's now looking into it, so we'll see what Patel has to say about it. But this is something I think far bigger than just Patel. This is something that needs to be brought to Pam Bondi, and she needs to be put to the test. Either do your job or get out. I mean, this whole Jack Smith thing is far worse than I think any of us ever imagined in the beginning. I mean, we all thought it was bad when they raided Mar-a-Lago and then he gets appointed. But everything that's come out since, I mean, it just is icing on the cake on just how bad and corrupt this government was and just how bad and corrupt Jack Smith was. Jack Smith's far from the only corrupt man or woman, I should say, in the business of politics, because he was in the business of politics. Yesterday, we did a big show on what's happening in Portland, Oregon, and what's happening in Chicago, among many other states. The governor of Oregon, Tina Kotek, says that the ICE agents that President Trump has put in are instigating the rioters. Take a listen to this idiot.
Lawful demonstrations happen in the city of Portland outside of this facility. It is being managed. What I'm seeing and what we're seeing and what the mayor is seeing on the ground is an escalation from the agents who are protecting the building, trying to antagonize those protesters who are there. And I would like to de-escalate the situation. We don't need a military intervention.
Don't need a military intervention. Then do your damn job and get these thugs off the street in their face masks and their coverings and their military gear. Those aren't people who are just protesting. That's not just Joe Schmo and Jim Smith. These are paid professional agitators who are coming to do harm. So do your job or President Trump will do it for you. Very simple. Now, she's far from the only idiot and fool in government. J.B. Pritzker is now saying that Donald Trump is federalizing these places so that he can take over the 2026 midterm elections and get rid of all the ballot boxes. I got a test for J.B. Pritzker. Why don't you get rid of the crime in your city and see if that's what really Donald Trump wants? He's warned you for a month to get your shit together. For a month, he warned you. Get it together or I'm sending in the guard. He didn't just send it in. He warned you for a month. So the fact that he's using this to take away your ballot, it's nonsense. He told you a month ago he was going to do this if you couldn't figure out your city. Over 1,500 shot in Chicago this year. 30 over the weekend, which is a low weekend for shootings for Chicago. Stephen Miller reacted to Pritzker saying that this is an invasion by the federal government.
Well, first of all, he uses the term, think about this, he uses the term invasion force. This fool, Governor Pritzker, uses the term invasion force to describe federal law enforcement. He is adopting the language and the narrative of the paid insurrectionists and the Antifa mobs. The invasion force were the 20 million illegal aliens that Biden flooded into this country, taking our jobs, taking our wages, filling up our hospitals, destroying God knows how many schools, and of course leading to countless rapes, assaults, and murders. That was the invasion force. President Trump is elected on a mandate to turn that invasion back, to send those illegals home. And Governor Pritzker is providing aid and comfort to the riotous mob that is physically assaulting, obstructing, impeding, and attacking ICE officers. And his latest act, declaring that there are no-go zones where federal law enforcement is not permitted, is truly an act of insurrection against the federal government.
And I think Stephen Miller says it right. Now, President Trump was asked yesterday about the Insurrection Act and if he will declare these insurrections. Take a listen.
Over a weekend. What?
The Insurrection Act, under what conditions or terms would you?
Well, I'd do it if it was necessary. So far, it hasn't been necessary, but we have an Insurrection Act for a reason. If I had to enact it, I'd do that. If people were being killed and courts were holding us up, or governors or mayors were holding us up, sure, I'd do that. I mean, I want to make sure that people aren't killed. We have to make sure that our cities are safe.
Seems pretty simple, and President Trump is a man of his word. So keep effing around, Mr. Pritzker and Kotek in Oregon, and I guess you guys will have to find out what's happening. Now, all of this has the Dems in total disarray. AOC has been going out of her mind, doing Instagram lives, taking personal attacks. One of them was on Stephen Miller, which was pretty funny because it just shows how desperate the Democrats are and how low they're willing to go. Take a listen to AOC, and then Stephen Miller reacts to it.
Like he is angry about the fact that he's 4'10", and he looks like he is so mad that he is 4'10", that he's taking that anger out at any other population possible. Like, laugh at them. Laugh at them.
Well, we knew that her brain didn't work. Now we know their eyes don't work. So I mean, she is a mess, right? What a train wreck. What a train wreck. I think the important point is that every time she's on TV, Republican approval ratings go up, Democrat approval ratings go down. That lady is a walking nightmare.
You're about, I know you for 20 years. You're about 5'10", 11. About 5'10", yes. So 4'10", yes. I don't know what she can't say. All right, Stephen, thank you very much.
It shows you, folks, just how low the Democrats have to go because they're losing at every single corner. Now, the latest thing they're losing at, aside from the crime in the big blue cities, is this federal government shutdown. Hakeem Jeffries, who's been making his media rounds just everywhere, whereas if I was coaching Hakeem Jeffries, I would tell him just to please be quiet, don't go anywhere. So as Republicans, I think it's good, and they should be cheering on that Hakeem Jeffries is going out making media rounds and making a fool of himself. He was on CNBC and sat there while the host read out just how good President Trump's achievements have been and what the Democrats have to say for it.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know about deflation and costs coming down. All I can tell you is that the inflation rate itself was 2.7% in the most recent read year over year versus it got to a high of 9% under Biden. Stocks are at record highs. Unemployment is 4.2%. That's full employment. The GDP was 3%. The border is actually secure. We've got trade deals with EU, Japan, many more in the works, and trillions of dollars of foreign investment coming here. Iran's nuclear ambitions have been set back indefinitely. And I just wrote down a few things. So I just have to ask you, where is the calamity that you're talking about? And it almost seems like for Democrats, socialism is the answer to these problems, or I don't know, an end of democracy or something. We just don't get it.
Imagine sitting there for a minute while you get owned by this host of CNBC and you can't say a word because they can't. He's had a tremendous amount of accomplishments in this second go around. Now, there are some things that I would like to see done differently, and it's not President Trump, it's his DOJ. I'd like to see some prosecutions come out of there, some real meaningful prosecutions. But President Trump says the Democrats have committed a kamikaze attack on America.
Well, they're the ones that started it. They're the ones that have it. And it's almost like a kamikaze attack by them. You want to know the truth? This is like a kamikaze attack. They almost, they have nothing to lose. They've lost the elections. They've lost the presidential election in a landslide. I saw the other day where Kamala said this was a very close election. This was one of the biggest sweeps that anybody's ever had. Won the popular vote by millions, won the electoral college by a massive amount. They said, if I got 270, that would be great. But I got, I think, 312 or 315, and they got 220. So, we won that. But we won counties. The big thing is counties. So out of all of the counties, thousands and thousands, we got 2,500. They got 525. It was a landslide. And we listened, oh, yes, it was close. It was one of the greatest victories ever. And it was a mandate to do what we're doing.
He's absolutely right. And the only president to win 3 elections, not bad. President Trump making America great again. Folks, we're going to take a quick break here on the Great America Show. When we return, we're going to be joined by a fan favorite, the great Roger Stone, on the other side of this quick break. We're coming right back. Please stay with us. The Great America Show continues in just one moment. We're coming right back. Don't turn that dial.
I'm excited to announce that we're having a huge sale on overstock and brand new products. For example, MyPillow Percale bed sheets, every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. Our Percale bed sheets are breathable, cool and crisp, and they're perfect for spring and summer. And check out Rev 7, the next generation of energy drinks. It tastes great, and it gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. Best of all, it's actually good for you. And for a limited time, try our 3-pack absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs, or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88. Twin size, full size, queen size, king sizes, all $29.88. Inventory is extremely limited at this price, so order now.
Roger, it's always a delight to have you back with us here on the Great America Show. I want to start with first, tomorrow. It's a big day for America. I think it's probably a big day for the healing of this country as we're getting our first deep stater indicted. There's one problem with it, Roger. The way it's being handled. You've got a new Substack out today, or this week, I should say, why I was gagged by a federal judge and why James Comey should be. And you lay out the comparisons and the contrast between your case and how James Comey is now being treated. Do you expect Comey to be perp walked tomorrow, just as you were, Roger, a dangerous, almost 70-year-old man living in his house with his wife in Florida?
Let me just point out that within 24 hours of my being charged in a secret indictment, 29 heavily armed FBI agents who arrived in 17 armored vehicles, plus a helicopter and 2 amphibious units in my backyard, converged on my house at 6 o'clock in the morning to arrest me for the first time, nonviolent crime of allegedly lying to Congress and obstructing a formal investigation. That was completely unnecessary. Normally what would happen, given the fact that I had no previous criminal record, didn't have a valid passport, didn't own a gun, is they would have informed your attorney that you were going to be charged and you voluntarily turn yourself in, which is what's being done in the case of James Comey. They also seized all my electronic devices at the same time I was arrested, my cell phone, my laptop, both of my computers. In the case of James Comey, they have neither arrested him, nor stormed his home, nor have they seized his electronic devices. And he's being allowed to turn himself in anytime between the time his indictment was announced and October 9th. Now, we're charged with the exact same crimes, in fact, obstruction of justice, obstruction of an investigation, and lying to Congress. The witness tampering charge against me is patently ridiculous. They claim that I threatened to take the dog of one of the government witnesses. And there is an email that says that. What they wouldn't allow me to enter into evidence was the 4 other emails in which I kept saying to the witness, doesn't look to me like you're feeding that dog. I can see that dog's ribs. Are you using the money for drugs rather than feeding your dog? I'm going to report you to the ASPCA. But the judge wouldn't allow those emails to be placed into evidence. And then secondarily, there's this bogus charge that I had to be gagged. You see, Comey is ungagged. They said I had to be gagged because I threatened to kill the judge, citing an Instagram post, which I have posted online now, both on X. Please look at it. If you see a rifle hairs over the judge's face, let me know, because that's what the Daily Beast reported. That's what the judge accused me of. Look at it carefully. In the upper left-hand corner, there's the logo of the organization that posted the image. It was called Corruption Central. I got a signed affidavit from the graphic artist who designed it. It's not over the judge's face. There's no threatening language. But you see, John, I had to be silenced because I was blowing the whistle on their whole phony Russian collusion hoax. The FBI testified in my case that they had never inspected the computer servers of the DNC, and that the conclusion that the DNC had been the target of a Russian intelligence hack, a total fabrication invented by John Brennan, was completely unfounded, and they relied entirely on a company called CrowdStrikes, a third-party entity. The judge refused to give my defense attorneys the CrowdStrikes report at trial, but now we know why. Because as the House Intelligence Committee learned, that memo included no evidence whatsoever of a Russian hack. There was no Russian hack. I wanted to call Bill Binney, I think the premier counterintelligence IT guy for the CIA for many years, who would have provided expert testimony and forensic proof that there was no hack on the DNC, but that would have questioned the prevailing Russian collusion narrative. So I never threatened the judge. I now finally can explain why the prosecutors, even at sentencing, in their sentencing memo, they wanted to give me additional time for my, quote, threat against the judge, but I wasn't charged with that. Judge ordered the U.S. Marshals to conduct an investigation. They came back empty-handed. It was a bogus charge meant to rationalize the unconstitutional gag on me. James Comey, on the other hand, did threaten the life of the president. Everybody saw his seashell, I think it was 86. Yeah. Anybody who's ever seen a gangster movie
or been to a casino knows exactly what that means. So Comey actually does merit a gag, whereas I don't think I did.
Yeah.
He's been treated with kid gloves, and in my case, obviously they raided me, they gagged me, they seized my electronic devices. Why isn't he being treated the same way I was?
Yeah, and everyone who's joining us on video, they can see the footage right there. These gangsters banging on your door, and here you are walking out of your house at, I guess, just about 6 o'clock in the morning with CNN camped outside. I mean, it's the most disgusting thing in the world. Now is the time for equal justice under the law. I don't agree. On its face, I don't agree with gag orders. I don't think that you should be gagged. I don't think Comey, in some cases, should be gagged. I think it limits your freedom of speech. Now, should there be some sort of witness tampering aspect of it? Yeah, absolutely. But where's your First Amendment rights, Roger, when it comes to – look what they did to Donald Trump. They gagged him for absolutely no reason, couldn't talk about the case. Of course, he continued to go past the gag and didn't care about anything they had to say, and then they threatened to hold him in contempt and, all that nonsense. It's on its face, I think, stupid. The thing with Comey,
the other point I have to mention is there's this woman who you have to check out, Barbara McQuaid. Okay, because she was once briefly a U.S. attorney, she tries to hold herself out as some unbiased law enforcement professional, when in fact she's a vicious leftist partisan. She insisted that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. She backed the entire Russian collusion hoax. When you see her on MSNBC, you can always tell when she's lying. Her lips are moving.
Yeah.
So, Barb, cut the crap. You're not a former U.S. attorney. You're a left-wing Democratic partisan known for your lies. She posted that it is a violation of DOJ policy to perp walk suspects in a criminal offense. Really? Then how do you explain what happened to me? Now, there are lunatics online saying Stone posted his own home security camera footage, and that's what you're looking at. No. CNN broadcast my arrest live.
Yeah.
How did they do that? Here's how. I was arrested at 6:06 a.m. At 6:22, a woman named Sarah Murray, a particularly vile woman, by the way, sent my attorney, Grant Smith, a copy of the draft of my criminal indictment. That draft was sealed until 10:30 that morning. So how is it that CNN had that draft? Well, if you look at it, it has no court markings or timestamps on it. But if you look at the metadata tags, you see the initials of the man who wrote it, Andrew Weissman. Now, the leaking of the draft of a federal indictment prior to it being executed is specifically a felony under U.S. Code, I think it is 180, Section 401C. So Weissman, this is not the first felony in his lifetime, but Weissman committed a felony. The judge in my case, as she violated my constitutional rights consistently through the case, she could care less. You see, rules in D.C., the law in D.C., that's only for Republicans. If you're a Democrat or someone connected to the Biden or Obama administration, you can violate whatever law you want. Yeah. In D.C., the Constitution, the law, the facts, the rules, the precedents, none of these things matter. These judges, these corrupt judges, just do whatever they want.
I'll tell you why I really don't have any reason to believe that they're going to hold Comey to the same account. This was James Comey right here, Roger, just a few months ago, getting in the vehicle of a Secret Service as they closed the door for him. This is after the 8647 post. Sitting in the front seat. This was after Comey posted the message of 8647, which means kill Donald Trump, which he didn't know about. They put him in the front seat of the car, watch his head, and they close the door. Far different than how they treated you. That's why I don't have any sort of reason to believe that this guy's going to be held to any sort of justice.
You're right. Just looking at the convoluted process in which he was indicted. Let's be very clear. The U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, Eric Siebert, had a stunning conflict of interest from the beginning. His father-in-law, meaning his wife's father, is the godfather to James Comey's daughter,
right?
Which means that Siebert should have recused himself from day one, and his failure to do so is a serious ethical breach for which he should be disbarred. But in the meantime, he was preparing a 51-page memo outlining the reason why his father-in-law's best friend, James Comey, should not be charged. The president correctly fired Sieber and appointed an interim U.S. attorney, Lindsay Halligan, who's a particularly smart and capable attorney who went to a grand jury of Mr. Comey's peers and secured an indictment with days to spare. By the way, the Justice Department gave her virtually no support in that effort. She achieved it anyway. Now there are reports that in the UK Daily Mail and NBC, posted by longtime CIA operative and well-known asshole Ken Delanian, who's not a journalist, he's a propagandist for the CIA, fired by the LA Times, by the way, because he was clearing his copy. I've had it up to here with him, by the way. He's a wee little fellow. In any event, it is reported that one of the prosecutors in the Eastern District is now refusing to charge Letitia James with mortgage fraud. By the way, I believe there's more than mortgage fraud. I believe there's also tax fraud, insurance fraud, wire fraud, bribery, and other acts of corruption. Now, what's interesting is my sources tell me that her boss, Lindsay Halligan, has not been told this. So she is. So the prosecutor has disclosed her intentions to NBC and the UK Daily Mail prior to her telling her own boss what she's going to do.
Sounds familiar.
This woman should be fired in a heartbeat. But I guess if I were, and I'm not a lawyer, but if I were the acting U.S. attorney, I'd take the overwhelming and airtight case against Letitia James, which anybody can go to whitecollarfraud.com or to the Gateway Pundit, where Joel Gilbert posted basically a prosecution memo that is airtight. I'd take that to the grand jury. I would say this prosecutor refuses to indict, that's obstruction. I would charge her with obstruction right now. That's what I would do. Now, let's be clear. The Eastern District of Virginia is an extremely liberal district, much like D.C. You're going to get a left-wing wacko judge. You're going to get a jury of leftists. Yep. So the chances of a conviction may be slim. The truth is, James Comey could murder somebody. You can have photos of him with the dripping knife, and he probably wouldn't get convicted. The bad news for James Comey is that I think he faces additional superseding charges in other jurisdictions.
Yeah, as he should. You know, the leaking thing is absolutely mind-boggling to me, right? Because you ask some people on the left and even on the right, the rhinos on the right, and they'll say Julian Assange is a bad man for exposing government corruption. Edward Snowden's a bad man for letting everyone know that Americans are being surveilled and wiretapped illegally. These are two of the biggest criminals this country's ever seen in the eyes of some people. In my opinion, I don't agree with that at all. I look at them as decent people who are blowing the whistle on travesties that are happening to the American people. Yet when the left does it, Roger, it's completely clear and fine. And these people are heroes. When I mean, I'm sure Snowden and Assange are apolitical people, don't really care. They don't seem like particular political people. But when they do it, it's treason, and they can't come back to the country, and they're on the run for their lives. What's with the double standard there?
Well, if liberals didn't have double standards, they'd have no standards at all. They loved Julian Assange when he was embarrassing the George W. Bush administration.
Yes.
They only started hating him when he started exposing the epic corruption of the Clintons and the Obamas and the war machine. In the case of Snowden, you'll recall that General James Clapper testified before Congress that there was no metadata collection program being used by the U.S. government. But Edward Snowden proved that was a lie. That made him government enemy number one. So what are the crimes of Julian Assange and Edward Snowden? Exposing the war machine, period. That's what they did. I think they did a public service. No, stop saying Julian Assange is a Russian asset. There is no evidence to prove that whatsoever. That was made up by John Brennan in one of his fever dreams. You know, John Brennan, the Islamic convert, known communist, the guy who got caught red-handed spying on a Senate committee. Speaking of spying on senators, this makes Watergate look like small potatoes. What we now know is, presumably with the approval of Merrick Garland, deranged Jack Smith was actually spying on 6, it may actually be 9, I'm told now, U.S. senators. This cannot be allowed to stand. This is absolutely outrageous. Jack Smith should be charged. Yeah. I mean, Didn't Nixon go down for what? For allegedly covering up the wiretapping of the Watergate?
Yep, yeah, exactly true. And these are private citizens too, Roger. Senators Mike Kelly, Lady Lindsey. Just says Lindsey Graham, Bill Hagerty, Josh Hawley, Dan Sullivan, Tommy Tuberville, Ron Johnson, Cynthia Lummis, and Marsha Blackburn. Their communications were all infringed upon, and during January 6th, as if they were treating like they were criminals. To me, another thing that's absolutely mind-blowing to me is how we number one, just find out about this now. Jack Smith wasn't pardoned. What is Pam Bondi doing, Roger? I know you've given her the benefit of the doubt. You've tried to give her the benefit of the doubt, but I think we've got a little bit of an issue, Roger. These people are still walking the streets. These criminals, these deep state criminals, are still out there, perpetrating hate and all these bad things that this country has been trying to fight against for the last few years. The Gateway Pundit, who I think does a terrific job, our friends over there, have a great article out today. By October 1st of 2021, the Biden administration had already arrested over 700 Trump supporters. Compare that to Pam Bondi and the Trump DOJ, who as of today have arrested 0 deep state criminals. I mean, there's no falsehoods to that, Roger. What's going on?
John, it's extremely frustrating. The New York Times noted the other day that Donald Trump is weaponizing the criminal justice system against his enemies and seeking to limit free speech. You can't make this stuff up. It's as if they missed the entire Obama and Biden administration, like they never happened. Now, I've heard this argument that, well, if we're mean to the Democrats now, if we hold them to account, then when they get back into power, they'll come after us. Has everybody forgotten that they already tried to destroy Donald Trump and his family, General Flynn and his family, me and my family, Paul Manafort and his family, and so on and so on and so on? If you don't think that the radical left is going to be vicious if they get back into power, regardless of how we conduct ourselves today, you're out of your mind. And I would say politically, particularly on the hands of what I would call the strange handling of the Epstein issue. If the Russian collusion hoaxsters, Comey, Brennan, Clapper, Rice, Weissman, Rosenstein, Mueller, and so on, are not held accountable for those crimes, the Republican base, the Trump base, is not going to turn out in these midterm elections. They're going to be de-energized, and I think that's exceedingly dangerous.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
I saw this on Twitter last night, Roger. I don't know if you can see it on your screen there. So here's a list of all the Republicans who are arrested under Joe Biden. And, of course, it starts with Donald Trump at the top. You've got Walt Nauta, who was Donald Trump's valet at Mar-a-Lago, who then went over to work with Donald Trump in the administration. They actually had this guy, they tried to flip him on Donald Trump. One of his right-hand handlers. They tried to flip him on Trump. They tried to flip his attorneys on him, attorney-client privilege out the window. Rudy Giuliano, Mark Meadows, John Eastman, Kenneth Cheeseburger, Sidney. I mean, you go down the list of these people, Roger, who were brutalized by a corrupt Justice Department. There's not many things that piss me off, Roger, but this is one of the few things that really pisses me off. And
I'm still trying to understand how Judge Beryl Howell pierced the attorney-client relationship and forced a lawyer named Evan Corcoran to testify against Donald Trump regarding
I've
his
never heard of that in my life.
confidential communications with his client.
I've never heard of that in my life.
It's completely and totally unconstitutional. But again, D.C. judges believe that they are beyond the law, that they can do whatever they want with impunity, and that there will be no consequences.
They're right, though. They're right, Roger. There are no consequences because till this day, not one of them has gone to jail. We've got James Comey, who's being turned in tomorrow for lying to Congress. Okay, big deal. Okay, you go to your even if he does get convicted of it, he'll go to his little camp, which he won't, in the Eastern District of Virginia. And I'm not, being pessimistic about it. We just all know how this system works, Roger. It's corrupt judges, it's corrupt judiciaries, and these people walk free. Get them on the real crimes, not these little bullshit lying to Congress. It was bullshit when they got you with it, and it's bullshit when they're getting him with it. Get them on the real crimes that they committed. James Comey committed treason. Tell me I'm wrong.
No, I agree. I think there is a seditious conspiracy charge that could be leveled against all those people. And the good news is, because this is a conspiracy that began in 2017, but continued through 2020, all the way to 2024, culminating in the raid in Mar-a-Lago, which is in the Southern District of Florida, which means this case can be brought in Fort Pierce, Florida, not D.C., Fort Pierce, Florida, where you'll actually get an honest judge, which you could never get in D.C., which is why, by the way, the left is getting increasingly violent and increasingly hysterical. It's why you see these uprisings in Seattle and Portland and Chicago and Washington, D.C., because they fear that justice is coming, and therefore they want to tear down and destroy the entire system. So when people like Alex Jones keep predicting a civil war, I don't think that should be taken lightly. No. The radical left is cornered. They know it. And they know that they could be held to account. And therefore, they can't steal the elections anymore. They know that Tulsi Gabbard has a working group now focused on the integrity of the voting machines. That scares the daylights out of them. They know they're completely exposed in the Russian collusion hoax, that it's no longer conjecture or supposition or the results of excellent investigative reporting by people like Paul Sperry or John Solomon or Lee Smith. These now are undisputed facts based on their own communications. That's why they're increasingly hysterical.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Let's turn to, Roger, the elephant in the room, and that's Letitia James. You mentioned a little bit earlier, but they're having a little bit of a problem down in the Eastern District of Virginia because they don't want to prosecute Letitia James for the clear crimes that were uncovered by you and so many others, Sam Antar, of her mortgage fraud. Clear, concise. Bill Pulte submitted the criminal referral to Pam Bondi. Just another case that's sitting on Pam Bondi's desk with no criminal referral from the Eastern District of Virginia, no criminal referrals from the Department of Justice. Is this another one who's just going to skate on by?
Well, I think, again, that remains to be seen. The prosecutor, a woman whose name I don't recall at this point, leaks to NBC and to the UK Daily Mail that she sees insufficient grounds. That's absolutely false. It's actually a slam dunk case. If she wasn't the left-wing attorney general of New York, she'd already be charged. John, if you or I did what she did, we would already be charged. First of all, let's look at her defense. That it's a typographical error in a power of attorney. No, 12 separate signatures, all witnessed by a lawyer in her office. That's not an error. We're talking about a 43-year record of mortgage fraud in her very first mortgage, claiming that her father was her husband, to use his balance sheet to qualify for the mortgage, a crime. Let's talk about her acquiring a HAMP loan for an investment property in which you had to have 4 units or less. She says in her application she had 4 units. We've seen the actual building. She has 5, another violation. And then the most recent infraction, where she got a mortgage on a home in Virginia, and she very definitely says multiple times that she is going to own or occupy it, thus getting a tax break in the state, also getting a lower mortgage rate and a lower interest rate. Saying, she filed a paper saying she wasn't going to inhabit the property. Yes, she did after she got caught. She has the worst lawyer in the world, Abby Lowell. This guy loses everything he touches. This could be the one case where someone gets the electric chair for mortgage fraud because he is the worst defense attorney on the face of the earth.
Yeah, he's not particularly bright. I don't think he's done a particularly good job for the last few clients he had, one of them being Hunter Biden, as you mentioned. I want to turn to the Stone Zone because you got a special guest on tonight, the former chief of Chicago police. So let's talk about that little issue that we've got here. President Trump wanted to deploy the National Guard and troops into Chicago, into Portland. And these Democrats are just absolutely abhorrent and are opposed to it completely. J.B. Pritzker, big old J.B. the Hut, says Trump's goal is to use the military to confiscate the ballot boxes to steal the 2026 elections. I'm sorry. The Republicans are far too dumb, number one, to steal elections. Number one, they don't do it. Number two, number three, they don't need to because the Democrats are giving them everything they need on a silver platter. Imagine a crime-filled city. 1,500 shootings in Chicago, Roger, so far this week. 30 over the weekend. Chicago averages about 30 to 50 a weekend. And these idiots, these Democrats are saying, no, we don't need your help. Where is the presumption that people, the taxpayers of Chicago, are entitled to live in a safe city? Am
let's be candid. J.B. Pritzker, I think, has had one triple cheeseburger too many. So this guy makes no sense whatsoever. I actually think this past weekend, when there were ICE agents who were endangered and under attack, the mayor ordered the Chicago City Police to stand down and not protect them, not defend them. That makes J.B. Pritzker and the mayor personally, legally liable to any injury to any of these ICE agents. I actually think it's obstruction. So they keep telling us there is no problem, as if we can't see with our own eyes, not only the fact that Chicago has become the murder capital of the United States, but that the streets are extraordinarily dangerous. Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, has a 6% approval rating. I don't think the people of Chicago are happy with the lawlessness in their communities and their neighborhoods. I think the president needs to move in the guard, probably in stronger numbers, to protect the ICE agents who are simply doing their jobs. And if the mayor and the governor want to get in the way, if they obstruct, well, they too should be charged and arrested. Now, so far, all you have is superheated rhetoric that's baseless and crazy. If J.B. Pritzker thinks he can launch a presidential campaign on defending illegal immigrants staying in the country and by attacking the law enforcement, I think he's sadly mistaken.
Yeah, and he's going to get burned, and he's not the only one. Rachel Maddow's sister, the governor over in Oregon, says that feds are escalating the riots in Portland and the recent violence from counter-protesters. I mean, do people actually believe this bullshit that these Democrats, these Marxist freaks are spewing? What they're trying to do, Roger, in my opinion, is they're trying to recreate another summer of love. I did like a 20-minute piece on this on the show yesterday. They're trying to recreate another summer of love so that they can come out and say, whenever the orange man is in power, bad things happen. You have to assure the orange man is never in power again or anyone associated with the orange man. But people aren't buying it anymore. Nobody believes this bullshit. We watched what happened in 2020, and Donald Trump says it's never happening again. And it's at all costs. The people who live in these cities deserve to be safe. The agitators who show up like thugs in masks and riot gear, those aren't protesters. Those are paid professional agitators. And Donald Trump and this country is not putting up with it. Stops there.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. Look, I think the president has charged Stephen Miller in the right direction. First of all, let's stop paying for these violent demonstrations, this mayhem, this violence, this wave of injury and death with our own tax dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start there by cutting off the USAID funding for all these NGOs who are funding violence. Then let's go after people like the Soroses who are also funding violence. This was one of the great mistakes of Donald Trump's first presidency, that in the 2020 BLM Antifa riots, that he did not crush them. This time, they need to be crushed. If they're not, they will simply be emboldened, and this violence and this mayhem will spread. The first responsibility of the President of the United States is to maintain order and to protect the American citizenry. And that's what this president is doing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And Stephen Miller is doing an absolutely great job. He's over the target when AOC is coming out there attacking him, saying he's a midget and he's ugly. It's all they've got. She needs to, I think, look in the mirror.
Well, the part I really like is she keeps saying that he's dumb. The former bartender, who's barely literate, she says that Stephen Miller is dumb. That's pretty rich.
What they don't realize is, Roger, is Stephen Miller, to the best of my knowledge, never went to law school, is not a lawyer, and is steamrolling every single one of these idiot lawyers in this country. He's presumably put together almost every single one of Donald Trump's brilliant plans that has been put forward, from immigration to these cities, and he had 4 years to work on it. I don't think there's been one case that's been brought before a high court, obviously with the juridical judges, with the appeals, the lower courts, it gets kicked down and they stop it. But once it gets pushed to a higher court, Stephen Miller has this thing so foolproof that they literally can't deny it, because nothing is against the law. These people are getting beat by a man who's never went to law school. Stephen Miller's an idiot. I think AOC, like I said, needs to look in the mirror, Roger.
Yeah, no, I agree. You have this judge now in Portland saying that Trump doesn't have the authority to mobilize the national guard.
We'll see if that's
which, of course, he does. Look, I'm not a lawyer, but I think just as Andrew Jackson did, just as Abraham Lincoln did, I would ignore the judge. I think she's exceeded her authority. And how exactly would she implement her ruling? By ordering the Justice Department to pursue it? I mean, it doesn't work that way. This judge is wrong, just like they're all wrong. They're just stalling because they know when that ruling gets to the Supreme Court, it'll be overturned.
Yeah.
They just wanted to buy more time for the hooligans, for the hoodlums, for those who are practicing violence. Right now, it is open season on Trump supporters in Portland. I saw a video this weekend of a Trump supporter being shot in the head. His crime, walking down the street. This cannot be tolerated, and I don't think President Trump will tolerate it.
No, I don't think he has any reason to, and nobody should. Enough is enough. Roger, before we wrap, I want to get your take. One of my favorite people who's left the country, she's blocked me on Twitter. I don't know why. I really miss her. Rosie O'Donnell. She's now getting her citizenship in Ireland. I think this is it for her in America. One of Donald Trump's good friends. Sad day for America.
I guess I would say, don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out. I always thought she was minimally talented. Met her once in South Beach. She flipped me the bird. So, I don't think the country will be any poorer for her absence. By the way, if she thinks that life is a bowl of cherries in Ireland, guess again. That country's position on completely unrestricted foreign immigration, the country is awash in violent Islamic criminals. So enjoy yourself, Rosie. I really hope you don't get raped.
Roger, you bring up such a good point. I was there 3 months ago. I was there 3 years ago. The stark contrast from where it was 3 years ago to where it was now was, I mean, it's absolutely mind-blowing to me, to exactly what you just said. They're going to learn the hard way. And you know what? I guess sometimes the hard way is the only way to learn. Roger, the Stone Zone, who do you got on tonight? You told me you got the former Chicago commissioner.
Richard Brezak, who's the former commissioner of police for the city of Chicago. That's 8 p.m. Eastern at WABCradio.com. The Stone Zone, again, 8 p.m. Eastern at WABCradio.com. Richard Brezak, the former Chicago police commissioner, joins me to talk about the situation on the ground today in Chicago. Of course, you can always go to stonezone.com to check out all of my content.
Get some stones and get some books, stonezone.com, 8 p.m. Eastern. Or if you're in Vegas, where I was yesterday, 5 p.m., stonezone.com. Roger, we'll see you next week, my friend.
God bless you. Thanks, John.
Thanks to Roger Stone, folks, and thank you all for being with us today here on the Great America Show. We'll see you back here tomorrow, same time, same place. Until then, may God bless you, may God bless America, and may God bless the great Lou Dobbs. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.